Welcome back to 13C. In a previous video we talked about this city kiosk and using it, but in this one I want to talk more in general about how to buy a silencer, go through the various steps, your various options, as well as maybe toward the end dispel some myths like, do you have to be 18 or 21 to buy? The answer is yes, no, and mostly yes. And some other things, dispel the myths of, the class 3 license, if you will, in order to buy a silencer, some of those things. So let's dive right in here. First of all, silencers are legal, whether it's silencer or suppressor, whatever term you want. On your Form 4, which you'll fill out, whether electronically through this or the actual paper form if you don't want to use the SID kiosk, it's a silencer. If you put suppressor down, that's not what it's technically considered under the law. Either term is good and acceptable. It's not like the difference between a clip and a magazine where there's substantial differences. They're both fine. And if you want to tune out on this video because you get a little hurt when somebody says silencer or suppressor versus one or the other, I completely understand. That's fine. So first of all, they're legal in 42 of the 50 states. And it's legal to hunt with in 40 states. So the idea that there's some sort of taboo thing behind it or anything else, there's not. That's long over and done with. This isn't, the roaring 20s or 30s or whatever. We got gangsters running around, which really didn't anyway. It was more poaching. In any event, we're going to get off topic there. The paperwork, the easiest way to do is honestly through the kiosk. If you want to do it kind of the old school way, through the paperwork, you can, and your local dealers will help you. I'm here at Copper Custom in Valparaiso, Indiana. They're a dealer of all sorts of NFA items, so great place if you happen to be around Valparaiso, Indiana. Stop by. Special thank you to them for letting me be here today. Anyway, paperwork-wise, you're going to need the Form 4. Which is where you're going to put all your information on there. On that Form 4, you're going to throw on a passport, some passport photos that you're going to have to take. And if you're sending the actual thing versus using this and taking it with your phone, check out the video we did on this a month ago. I won't get into it here. In addition to that, you're going to need a fingerprint card, an FD. What is it? FD 258, I believe. Anyway, you're going to need one of those, and then you're going to have to go either to your sheriff's department or police department, depending on where you live, what your jurisdiction is, and have them fingerprint you. If you use the kiosk, you don't have to worry about actually getting an appointment and going down there and seeing them, which during these kind of coof times, if you will, if you're watching this here as some of this stuff is unfolding in 2021, yeah. So you know that making those appointments sometimes can be hard. So I mentioned how your dealer can help you. So you'll buy your silencer, whether it's in person, online, silencershop.com. You're going to wind up having to pay that tax stamp, and that tax stamp is $200, and it is per can. So there's no class 3 license. Every silencer that you buy, you need to pay a $200 tax on. Every single one, every time. You have to fill out all this paperwork and do this whole thing all the time, which is why using the kiosk is nice. Put it all in there once, and they pre-populate all that stuff and send it out for you. Anyway, check out the video. I'm getting distracted again. So one of the other decisions you're gonna have to make. Do you want to do it as an individual, as a trust, or as a corporation? So if you're looking at a corporation, I'm not going to really get into that because your corporate lawyers are going to handle all that, and you're not going to be tuning into a YouTube video for that. Consult your lawyer for any of this stuff. I am not an expert. I am not a lawyer. I am not a federal agent or any of that stuff. So this is all for informational and entertainment purposes only. So you're looking at between the individual, filing as an individual or as a trust. Now, individual means that it's just your name on there and you have to be the one in possession of it all the time. If your wife or your husband, if you're filing your wife or your husband wants to go to the range with your silencer, you have to go with them. You cannot send them on their own if you're doing it as an individual. That's where the trust comes in. I love trust personally. That's where, if I was going to recommend to anybody, even if you already have silencers that are individually in your name, it makes sense to get a trust if you have a spouse, if you have children, if you want to will your things to anyone other than the government. Put it in a trust. It's going to make their lives much easier when you pass away. It's not that much money. The silencer shop has some trusts. You can set one up from your local, from one of your local lawyers. You can set up a trust. Setting up the NFA trust, I just put, NFA items on it. Maybe, some other firearms as well. It's easy enough. You can do it. You can do this online. They also have a single shot trust. Single shot trust is basically a trust that's set up just for one silencer. So that way, when you go to sell the silencer, theoretically, you could just put them on the trust, and there's a couple different ways to do that where you don't have to worry about going through that entire process of transfer to actually sell or dispose of your silencer in another event. Anyway, in any event, I went with a trust, got my wife on there, and then my children as beneficiaries. As long as they're not a responsible party, you do not have to, as long as they're not responsible parties, they're just a beneficiary. Every time you add a silencer, you go to buy another one or any other NFA item, they do not need fingerprints for it because they're not responsible parties. Now, anybody on your trust who is a responsible party will still need to have their fingerprints. And as of now, toward the beginning of 2021, that is how the rules and law is and how it applies to trusts right now. So theoretically, as you're buying your first, couple silencers, you buy a couple, you put them on a trust. You have your wife on there as a beneficiary, and then once you get your silencers in and added to the trust, you could move her into a responsible party situation, and she would not have to do fingerprints for the items that are pre-existing in your trust. Now, from that point forward, if that trust acquires any new NFA items, then you and her or him would have to submit your paperwork off to have to submit paperwork and fingerprints off, since you would both be responsible parties. And the same would go if you add on other responsible parties down the road. Let's say when your child turns 18, you want to make them a responsible party. We're getting into that 21 and 18 realm right now, right? So we'll cover that in the end, but you could move them over when they're 18 and make them a responsible party, and they could take it out. But from that point forward, then they would have to do be on the fingerprints. If you're buying from a dealer at that point, and here's where the yes comes in. If you're buying from a dealer at that point, if they're a responsible party on that trust, can you go buy another silencer from a dealer before they turn 21? That's a good question. We're going to put some of that legal links down below, since that's a fluid situation. But in any event, if you're buying from an 18-year-old, can buy from an individual and own and possess, and this is federal law, so make sure you check your state law, because states can be different. State laws can be stricter than federal law, so keep that in mind. Some states you may not be able to possess a silencer until you're 21, so definitely know your state laws. In any event, these are certain things to consider, and for me, I know for my family, it made perfect sense to go with the trust. Anyway, that's enough about those. Moving on. So we talked about tax stamps, not a Class 3 license, and then we touched on 21 to buy from a dealer, 18 to buy from an individual, 18 if you wanted to move someone from beneficiary status over to responsible party on a trust. Things to keep in mind, generally speaking, if you're going to buy a silencer in the United States, generally you've got to be a U.S. citizen. Keep that in mind. And also, even after you fill out all your paperwork, go through all your steps to buy, and your stamp comes back, and your dealer calls you, says, hey, the stamp's in, you come down. It's like, awesome, I can come pick up my... as soon as you get there, you actually have to do a 4473, a background check. Now, they just did an FBI check on you, but considering you're picking it up that day, and your background check was most likely done several days before that, because it's, they have to complete it, then sign off on it, stamp everything, and then they put it in their outbox, and then eventually it gets shipped to you from the post office, comes down here, etc. You're going to have to do a regular background check, just like you would on any firearm on that 4473. So keep that in mind as well. That 4473 is obviously the easiest part in these steps. So basically, find a silencer, pay for it, come up with your $200 for your tax stamp, file your paperwork, get your fingerprints done, get your passport photo done, send it all off, wait around, which right now you're looking at about 6 to 9 months for that stamp to come back. As soon as your tax stamp comes back, go down, pick it up, do a quick instant background check, and you're out the door. And you've got it. Now, keep in mind, once you take possession of your silencer, that paperwork that's with it, that tax stamp, lives with that can. So now some people will take photocopies of it, keep the original in their safe, and then when they go out, they will take a copy with them. But technically, if you get accosted while you're out by law enforcement, and they want to see they want to make sure that your silencer is legal, you're going to want to have that paper on you. What I would suggest that you do, and what I like to do, is I scanned all of mine, PDF'd them, uploaded them up to Google Drive, and also save them independently on my phone as well. And I have copies at home. That way, if for some reason I leave and I forget that I don't bring my tax stamp with me for that, I have digital copies of those so that if I need to show them, I at least have something that theoretically could satisfy the majority of most of those inquiries. So there's that. One of the other things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, they're like, well, I don't want to get a silencer or a machine gun, because then that means I give up my Fourth Amendment right to search and seizure, meaning that, this falls under that whole Class 3 license thing, right? So if you're a dealer, the ATF can come and inspect your records, inspect your books and stuff with very little to no notice. If you're an individual or trust, and they want to examine your collection, which they have a right to do under the law, they will notify you, and then it is up to you whether you want, and the option is yours, if you want them to meet you at your home or if you want to go to them. Now, for me, I don't necessarily like strangers coming into my home. I would take my silencers, throw them all in a case, and take them down to the local ATF office, or wherever you meet, and have them look at them and say, yeah, they're mine. I have them in my possession. Here they are. Boom. And at that point, they may also want to see your trust documents. So I would bring a copy of my trust with me as well. For me, if it wasn't the trust documents, then either way, you bring your stamps with you. This may seem a little overwhelming, may seem a little daunting, but quite honestly, it's not. Once you get through the process, once you go through all of this, it's not that complicated, it's not that hard, and you're going to wish you had done it sooner, especially if you use something easy enough like the kiosk. Do it on paper. Your local dealer will help you. The folks down here, David, Tim, the team, they will be more than happy, if you don't want to use this, to walk you through that process and help you, and not just select the right silencer for your needs, but also get you through that paperwork, get you through that first hurdle, and it will be, you'll be glad you did. Let me just put it that way. Aside from the fact, you got to pay a $200 extortion tax to exercise your Second Amendment right. But that's neither here nor there, though, in the focus of this video. Thanks so much for being here with us today. This information is for informational and entertainment purposes only. I'm not a lawyer, but we will put some links down below so that you can see that the things that I said are actually there with the appropriate documentation down below. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice. And thank you so much for all your support. If you have questions, leave them down below. You can also find us on various social media things like the Facebook and Instagram. If you want to visit us there, that's fine. They shut down our Instagram account. We got 5 figures worth of subscribers, just poof, gone. We have a backup account there, 13C Media, but find us on the other things: Parler, MeWe, Udo, Full30, Gunstreamer, things like that, right? Start utilizing these other platforms, because we are running out of time to have good places to share content like this. I have no idea how long, if at all, this video will be allowed on YouTube, but we'll see the best that we can. 1776 United is where you can find some of our channel shirts. Got one on under here, but I'm wearing one of their hoodies right now. 15% off anything on their shop apparel-wise, and most of the other things there with the code 7613C. We got a swag shop over at Big Cartel you can check out for unique swag you won't find anywhere else, as well as a Patreon. And we'll put that information down below for those of you who've been asking or wanting to support us there. Thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, and we'll talk soon.